They're going for 1.1. They're going 1.1. In Cherrydale, you're closer. It's arguably a better neighborhood. You're going to be 1.2, 1.3, maybe even higher. And we see as we get onto Stewart Street, where you were before, those things were originally sold. They're huge. A client of mine has one. They were originally bought at 1.5, 1.4, 1.5. Those things are now worth 1.8.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we have an update for the people on Arlington's missing middle.
Ooh.
So July 1st, the laws are in place. New things start happening. And, I tried to order condo docs the other day, and it was completely changed because I think a law was
July
changed
1st,
on July 1st. And in your local jurisdictions, laws have changed. And in Arlington, the missing middle permit applications are in the works.
Another thing that changed was our contracts. All of our contracts have changed. Make sure we look into that if you haven't.
We are also going to be talking about pandemic beach house purchases and how people are now selling their beach house. So could be a good opportunity for Shawn or someone else to scoop in.
I hope so.
And how that will affect the market as a whole. It's not just going to be if you're looking to buy in Dewey Beach, Delaware, this is the show for you. It's going to be marketed as a whole. And then we're also going to get in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 houses across the United States. Shawn, missing middle, July 1st. 5 days ago, the application process opened up to the public, and already we have more than a dozen applicants that have gone through the process. There have been 8 properties that have been approved, another 7 that are in the works, a total of 15 applications that are making their way through Arlington County's process and permitting. And what I thought would be useful is if we kind of just did a first impressions of what we thought, because, we talked about missing middle and how single family zoning essentially no longer exists. To kind of just dumb this down, we're not going to go through everything, parking regulations, lot sizes, things of that nature, but just overall first impressions. By the way, they changed the name. It's no longer missing middle, Shawn.
Yeah, I saw that.
What is it now?
I don't know. You read it to me because I can't remember.
EHO, Expanded Housing
Opportunity.
Possibly?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
EHO.
So missing middle, I don't know. I want, maybe in the comments if you're watching, can you just drop a comment and let me know why you think they changed it from missing middle to EHO. So, Shawn, I have some thoughts. Do you want to start with some of your thoughts, or do you want me to start with some of my thoughts?
I mean, I can start simply with a take that maybe you weren't thinking about. But what surprised me is July 1, you could put in an application for this. And by July 6th, we already have how many approved? 8? 8 approved. I thought that Arlington County was slow in their permitting process. It seems like missing middle is jumping ahead of all the other permitting processes. Honestly, how can you get 8 approved that quickly when everybody else is like, man, Arlington is super slow on this? So that was my first impression. Wow, in 4 days, 5 days, with a holiday, mind you, with a holiday of July 4th in there, they've already approved 8. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm just Googling what day. July 1st was a Saturday.
It was a Saturday.
So were county employees working on Saturday to get the
way. They had
process.
Saturday off. They had Sunday off. They had probably Monday off and Tuesday off. So today is Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday, they already have 8 approved. That's amazing. And I don't know how they did it. This must have been going on behind the scenes for a long time before they actually said, okay, we're ready. There had to be a review process going on.
Can I share a thought that's maybe more in line with what's happening? So my thought is there's interest. There is immediate interest. There are people that a lot of this was set up where you had to be in this zoning, you had to have this square footage, you could only do, these amount of parking spots and this type of property. That to me immediately ruled out a lot of people, but instantly July 1st, you have a line out the door essentially of people that wanted to do duplexes, wanted to do 3-unit townhouses. And now would be a good opportunity to break down out of those 15 or so that have been approved or that are working their way in. So in terms of 3-unit townhouses, there have been 5 permits essentially given. I'm just going to say it that way. Sixplexes, these are the biggest ones that have to be closer to the metro corridor. There have been 4 approved sixplexes, duplexes, 4 approved duplexes, and then quadplexes, basically 4-unit apartments, have been 2 quadplexes.
Okay, and so I think the thing that surprised me as well, or that people should know, is that there's caps on each of these styles, not styles, but lot sizes. So it was saying that I think all of these were R5 and R6, which means 5,000 square foot or 6,000 square foot lots. So is a sixplex going on a 6,000 square foot lot? Is that what they're saying? And can you look at that article and let me know how many more are left for R5 and R6 for this year?
One of the things that I got out of it is the sixplexes are going on the metro corridor. So when Missing Middle was happening, EHO was happening, people in Bellevue Forest and Country Club Hills, in these neighborhoods that are so far away from the metro, are thinking, oh, I don't want Missing Middle. We're going to have all these apartments and renters in our neighborhood. It's not going to happen. You're not going to build a sixplex in Bellevue Forest. You're not going to build a sixplex, in Williamsburg. It's just not going to happen. Now, maybe you will do a duplex or a townhouse, but by and large, when you're looking at the quadplexes and the sixplexes, you are seeing them near the metro corridor.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing is, but in that metro corridor, there are some beautiful neighborhoods. And yeah, I can understand, inside 66, right? Inside 66 and inside Glebe Road and that area.
We'll have
right?
a map up if you're watching on YouTube.
Right. So those little areas where you're like really close to metro, I can understand that happening. And if you look at the aesthetics of the neighborhood already, I mean, you see some duplexes already mixed into that. So that's where I can see it happening a lot more. And actually, Matt, if you want to start the first one, there's one on Utah Street that is just off of Washington Boulevard inside 66, and it is a sixplex. Now, I know this area pretty well. We have a friend that lives right over there on Vermont Street. I looked at houses on Vermont Street. The thing with that neighborhood is you are in a busier area. It's not like, it's not like Cherrydale. Well, I mean, technically it is, but like it's a little bit more busy, and the aesthetics are a little bit different. So I could see it happening in that neighborhood. If I was living across from it, I probably wouldn't be very happy. But, I think buying in that neighborhood or that area, that's probably what you have to expect because it's already there.
It's a tough place for new construction. I mean, you're right next to 66 and Glebe, 2 of the busiest roads in Arlington. You're walking distance to the metro. I'm less surprised that a sixplex is here and more surprised that single family homes are here. Because if you go just south of Washington Boulevard, you're on Stewart Street or you're right here. Shawn, you sold a house to a gentleman on Vermont Street. It was all townhouses, used car parking lots. I lived in a bungalow literally on the 1100 block of Stewart and Washington Boulevard right near Washington Liberty High School.
Those are now townhouses.
It was a bungalow. The backyard was humongous. Who needs a backyard next to the metro? And now there's this was before Missing Middle. There's like 6 townhouses there that are like $1.5 million.
Yeah, and that's like I'm saying, these are the areas that you can understand it happening because it's already there. There's townhouses mixed in here, and just now these ones are just north of Washington Boulevard, which is still kind of a mixed use, like we've talked about before. That big duplex that's going on right on Washington Boulevard, so you can understand it in there.
Okay, I feel like you weren't planning on finishing that sentence, and you have a lot more to say. What I'm going to say is, when I was growing up, back in my day, Northern Virginia was Arlington and Fairfax.
Yeah.
That was Northern Virginia. You know what Northern Virginia is now? Richmond, everything north of Fredericksburg, Prince William County, Loudoun County, some will say Fauquier County. People are commuting from West Virginia, Shawn. Some people commute from, Delaware. So what I'm looking at right now is that all of these applications are south of Route 29. They're all south of Langston Boulevard. So we're looking at this now and we're saying, hey, Missing Middle, EHO, it's all going to be condensed. But pretty soon, how many people want to live in Arlington? You know how many people want to be in one of the greatest places to live ever, in my opinion? A lot. And I'm thinking, they'd rather live in a small townhouse rather than an underutilized bungalow. And to give you another idea, there's a house on George Mason on the 700 block of George Mason. It's 4 beds, 2 baths. It's a Cape Cod. And they're now looking at putting a 6-plex there. Now, what are the options if you have a 4-bedroom, 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot Cape Cod? You ever been in Cape Cod? You go upstairs and like you got to crank your neck just like that to walk around. You know, it was sold for $800,000. So it needed a lot of work. Maybe you get a buyer in there that buys it for $800,000, and then what are they going to do? Renovate it for like $350,000. Then they're in it for like $1 million. And if they're an $800,000 buyer, why don't they just buy 1.2 somewhere else, not on a busy road? So I have no qualms with some of these busy roads like George Mason or Kirkwood or even Fillmore turning into, I don't want to call it Townhouse Alley, but turning into an opportunity. Because if think of it from another point, if you're a builder, what are you going to target all the properties on Arlington Boulevard and try to build a new construction house? It doesn't make sense. So if we want like affordability, okay, well, the numbers will probably make more sense if we start buying up these houses that were built in 1939 for, you know, a 3-person family, a husband, a wife, and like an only child. And, you know, they had like 5 shirts back then, and turning these 1930s houses into a duplex, into a triplex, into a quad or a 6-plex where you can still walk to the metro.
Well, that's again where I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it, is on these busier roads, because busy roads are harder to sell. They're cheaper values. And most people don't want to build a big house on those there because their value is just not going to equate to where it needs to be. So I can understand it there. I can understand it, you know, in certain areas. Where I do have a problem, like on George Mason, like you were saying, there was one application that was already approved there. I think it was a triplex, and that's fine. I mean, but where I have a problem, or where maybe I feel like one of these is going to not go with the aesthetics of the neighborhood, is in Cherrydale. There's one right now in one of my favorite streets. Where are we?
Taylor.
Okay, we're inside. Yep. Okay, so we're inside there. Yep. Taylor Street. I have clients that live on Taylor Street, and when they bought this house, I told them, I said, Taylor Street is one of my favorite streets in Arlington. It's just a beautiful, aesthetically nice, big trees, gorgeous homes, very nice. I mean, there's some smaller homes on there, but aesthetically, it looks really nice. Now there is an application that I believe has been approved for 3 townhouses on one of these lots. So if you go down Taylor Street right now, it's gorgeous. Just drive down and you'll see. But towards the top end, more towards Langston Boulevard, there is an application for a 3-unit townhouse. And I think that this is, unless the builder does something really nice, please do something nice. If it's just going to be these boxed townhouses that have no character, it's going to ruin that street, from my opinion. And not only that, well, a lot of these applications have 1 parking space per unit. And so if it's 1 parking space per unit, how many people are living in there? How many cars are you going to need? Now you're going to have parking on Taylor Street, which is already a narrow street. And all of these cars are going to take up that street on the western side of that beautiful road. And I think that's where I disagree. I can see it on certain areas, in certain places. But once you get into these aesthetically beautiful neighborhoods that make Arlington what it is, I believe it's a mistake.
You are hitting on all the sound points of anti-missing middle.
That's exactly
So I heard aesthetics. I heard parking. I heard, there was one more, aesthetics, parking, and there's one other thing. Shawn, I mean, how many cars are people going to have when they're less than a mile away from the metro?
They should be allowed to have as many as they want. That's the thing.
That's not the scary part about America, is people have like 3 or 4 cars.
But why should you limit them to what they want to own, right? And that's what you're doing, is you're limiting them to say, all right, well, you should walk to Metro. Well, why do I have to walk to Metro? I don't want to walk to Metro. I just want to live close to the things that Arlington has to offer.
If you had 2 cars and you had to park one of them on the street, would you park the car on the street?
I would have to.
But you wouldn't have to, because you could live somewhere else.
You could, but why should I limit myself?
Would you park a Land Rover on the street? One of the Arlington's most narrow streets that you just said?
I would have
Probably.
to.
No, you wouldn't. You would have to look at other places to live.
No, not necessarily. These people are not, I guarantee you that these people are not going to have 1 car. It's not going to be one family with 1 car. It's going to be a family with 2 cars. That's typically what's buying in Arlington. It's a family with at least 2 cars. My neighbors have 3 cars. My neighbors have 4 cars. They park them in their driveway and in their
So
garage.
do you think it'll be a move-up buyer? What price points are we looking at for a townhouse?
Cherrydale.
Cherrydale.
It's got to be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, depending on the sizes. I mean, over by, if you go west and a little bit south and west, those townhouses over in, I can't think of the name, but over by me, they're going for 1.1. They're going $1 million, 1.1. In Cherrydale, you're closer. It's arguably a better neighborhood. You're going to be 1.2, 1.3, maybe even higher. And we see as we get onto Stewart Street, where you were before, those things were originally sold. They're huge. A client of mine has one. They were originally bought at 1.5, 1.4, 1.5. Those things are now worth 1.8. So that's what happens when you get closer to Metro and when you're creating bigger properties. And let's face it, everybody still has a car. Most people still have cars, and they need to park them somewhere. And when you're selling a townhouse, which is going to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse, you're going to need 2 cars. So like that's my fear, is that it's just going to create, let's face it, there are some places in Arlington that are just not very pretty. And the aesthetics of the neighborhoods were created that way because there was no regulation on how things could look. So, in certain neighborhoods, you're like, wow, why is this here? What's wrong with that house? Or why is that, it's just weird as you go through certain neighborhoods. And I think that's the problem. We don't want it to look like that. We want Arlington beautiful. And how do we keep it the way it is? By incorporating a missing middle? I don't know. I think you have to have, I'm surprised that these things are approved so quickly, but hopefully they're aesthetically pleasing.
Well, one thing on the aesthetically pleasing note, and we don't have to name the builder, but it is a big builder. It is a builder that has experience building in Arlington and working their way through the permits. And I've seen the projects that they've done. And now I haven't gone in a microscope and looked at everything, but this is a project as a whole that is attracting big builders, right? It's not attracting your flippers, your wholesalers, your one-off. Well, it could be attracting wholesalers, but it's not attracting, your mom and pop builders.
Well, not only that, yes, it is attracting the big builders. Why is it attracting the big builders? Is because it's a money machine. It's a money-making thing for these builders. And you have to be honest with yourself. Why are these people in business? They're not in business to build a massive house for you. They're building these massive houses is because that's what makes most sense for their dollar, right? If I could have bought a smaller house brand new in Arlington, I would have bought it. But you know what? It would have cost me the same amount to the builder, the same amount almost to build a massive house and get way more money for it. So that's what they're doing, is they're maximizing their dollar. And let's be honest, that's why they're in business. So why are these applications in so quickly and pass so quickly? It's because of the builder that knows Arlington. They know people in Arlington, and they know how to squeeze these projects through quickly because they've done a ton of them in here. And that's the reality. It's not going to be the small builder that's a one-time off person that's trying to get this through because they don't know the regulations. They don't know how things go in Arlington. You have to be privy to all of the rules, regulations, and you have to have done it before in order to get it done quickly and get it in a timely manner and not be pushed out, because there's a maximum of how many can happen per year.
And, the big builders, they have a reputation. So if they're just looking for a cash grab and they're going to do poor materials, that the word's going to get around. Yeah. Shawn, almost moving on, some of the other streets that some of these properties are on. So down in South Arlington, you have a couple on 22nd Street in the Aurora Hills, Addison Heights area, walking distance to Crystal City. Beautiful neighborhood.
23rd Street is awesome. But if you walk through there's just gorgeous old homes. There's some bigger, older homes in there that are gorgeous. But go ahead.
Have you seen any renderings for missing middle duplexes or EHO townhouses or multiplexes?
I saw some early on where they were like, this is what we're thinking about, but no, I can't.
Did you want to throw up when you saw it? Was it just so ugly?
No, the thing that they mentioned, some of them were huge and they were taking up the whole lot, anyway. So do you want a beautiful home or do you want kind of triplex? But this is what I'm saying is the builders, I hope that they have an imagination with what they're building and not just a brick box with 3 townhouses. You know what I mean? Look at the houses.
Well, without seeing the renderings of what they're going to do on Utah Street in Waverly Hills, what they're going to do on Vermont Street, how can you say that it's going to destroy the aesthetics of the neighborhood?
You're right. I can't to a certain aspect of the aesthetics. I can probably bet that they're not going to be beautiful. I'll just bet you right now. But the other thing is the parking.
Well, okay. Well, you jumped away from aesthetics to park. So if you want to talk about parking, we talk about it all day. But as for the aesthetics, I want to see some renderings.
I do too.
Let's see some renderings of 2005 Taylor. Let's see some renderings of Vermont. Then we can have a discussion on what beautiful is.
100%. I mean, I have room to move on these. I just feel like, again, that's a beautiful street. But if they're doing it the right way, it can be much more pleasing to people, and it won't. If let's face it, these 5 or 8 are a test. If they come out and they're ugly and people get pissed off by what they're looking at across the street when they have just built a house or spent $1.8 million on a home, and now you're changing what is across from them. Like I've said before, what you're looking at matters, and what is across from you matters in your value. And if you're changing it and these people, get pissed, you're going to have an uproar and you're going to have a different vote. And that's, whatever. We'll get into voting and everything else as we go.
Some other streets. So Kirkwood, by and large, there's many houses on Kirkwood that I would just say, hey, duplex it up.
Yeah. There's certain streets like we're saying, right? Like, yeah, you could see it on there.
So I don't know if you saw this one on Second Road that is about 2 blocks away from my parents' house. So Second Road and Fillmore. Hey, I know the house that they're talking about. Even as a 10-year-old, I'd ride my bike by and be like, that's an ugly house. I don't like that house at all. It's not aesthetically pleasing. It detracts from the character. Put anything. What are they going to do? 3 townhouses? Fine. 3. I thought they were going to do a 6-plex there, to be honest. 3 townhouses. It's going to look great. Fillmore, there's a house on Fillmore right now that was the hottest chick at the dance during the pandemic when it came on the market.
Yeah.
And it went so quick. Guess what? It's still on the market. Really? It is going for I'll have it on YouTube right now if you're watching. But, close to $2 million. Gorgeous house, but it's on Fillmore. Yeah. And it's tough to sell premier properties on Fillmore, and it's a perfect opportunity to turn that into townhouses.
Yeah, I mean, there is, like I said, there's room to move, and I don't know your childhood home area as well as you do. So, I mean, you grew up there, and you know what you'd like to see there. Again, let's look at the renderings. When we get some renderings, we're gonna put these up.
Show us the renderings.
Show them, and we'll have a vote on. Do you think this fits in the neighborhood or not? And would you be pissed if it was built, across from you?
So we have a couple in East Falls Church. We mentioned a couple on George Mason, a couple in Virginia Square, Lyon Park near Pentagon City as well. And then one down on South Walter Reed. So mostly in that RB corridor with a couple outliers. Cool. Let's move on because we could talk about that forever. So WTOP, some pandemic beach house buyers are already sellers. Shawn, 2020 travel was restricted by the pandemic. Everyone was going out to the beach. They were buying beach houses. They were going on Airbnb. They were renting beach houses. And then they were buying beach houses to rent on Airbnb. And now people are coming back to the office and markets are shifting. And in May, Bright MLS, the MLS in the DC area, said that almost 1/3 of the homes that sold in the Mid-Atlantic were second home and investment properties. So, Shawn, when you see things like this, what are you thinking? What's your take on how that's going to affect the metro region that these people are moving to and from? Like, right in our area, usually it's like Outer Banks and then the Delaware beaches. How is that going to affect those beach town markets, and then how is this going to affect the metro market that those people come from?
First of all, let me say that this was the perfect storm. This was a perfect storm for real estate, for second home real estate. And number one was because interest rates were really low. People could afford to jump and buy a second home. Number two, you were thinking about Airbnb properties or short-term rentals, and the game was big, but it got exponentially bigger during that time. And people are like, well, I'll just put it on Airbnb when I'm not using it and I'll rent it out. Number three, it was during the pandemic and people were more afraid to go to hotels. They didn't want to be in multi-living areas. So they were like, well, let's go buy a beach house or let's go rent a VRBO. Let's go rent a space and we won't be in a high rise. So it was that perfect storm where things were working for second homes. When you wanted to rent them out, you were getting a premium dollar because values had gone up, and so did rental values. But now like we've said before, there was going to be a transition back because one, workers are being made to go back. And number two, they're seeing that their profits aren't what they were with the short-term rental because that demand has gone down. People are going back to their normal hotels and they feel comfortable again. And not only that, the markets were flooded with a lot more short-term rentals. So now people are saying, all right, well, this doesn't make financial sense for me. I think I need to get out. And so we're seeing a lot more come on. But what I'm reading, and I'm not an expert in these markets, but as far as nationwide, we're still very low on inventory. So in reading this article, they said that it shouldn't really have a dramatic effect on prices because we're just still lower than normal. And, you know, I was watching some of these markets during that time frame, and places were jumping off the market where they normally shouldn't have. They were competitive. I talked to agents that are like, we've never had a competitive market here. We've never had anybody waive contingencies. So those markets sprung up really quickly, and agents and buyers didn't know how to handle it. But they're hanging on, and they're hanging on because of low inventory. But I think that we could see the perfect storm when we come back to this. If interest rates drop, you will see a flood of buyers. I mean, buyers will be jumping in like crazy, but you're also going to see a flood of sellers. So because now they can move up. And so it might just stay, it might not be this craziness that we thought was going to happen when interest rates went up. We're not seeing the markets fall too drastically. Some areas we are. But perhaps what happens in the future is when interest rates come down, we're going to see a lot of buyers flood, but we're also going to see a lot more sellers flood. And so we could see just a normal market going forward. We don't know that it's going to be this crazy market because we're not there yet. And we're being surprised by what's happening right now and the fact that there's still low inventory.
So number of active listings in May in the Delmarva region, think the beaches in Delaware and the Maryland Eastern Shore area, up 30% from a year ago. Months of supply based on current sales trend, up 72.5%. And then the median price in May was down 0.5%. So over the first year-over-year, the first year-over-year drop since May 2020. So
yeah, that dropped only 0.5%, which it really isn't much, a few $1,000s. But the key is that the shoot, I had it and I can't repeat your stats.
So 30% active listings up in Delmarva.
That's my point. So even with a 30% increase in listings, it's still only a 2.5 month supply. And I don't know what normal supply is in there, but per the article, that's still very low for those regions. And typically those things would take a lot longer to sell. So 2.5 months really isn't a lot of supply. And in this area in Arlington, we were looking at numbers the other day. Miguel was giving us some numbers in Springfield, and we were just going over, all right, how many are for sale? They had less than a month's inventory in Springfield. So they vary all over the place. And just because 2.5 months seems high to us, it's not very high for them.
Well, pulling back the curtain, short-term rentals, your boy has a short-term rental. So giving a little update on, my short-term rental. Yeah. Right now, there's 2 houses, one property bought last year, 2022, outside of Charlottesville. The tiny house, which gets all the bookings, has 0 bookings for July. Wow. 0 bookings for August. So all wide open. Now, when I got the numbers, when I bought the place, I was like, hey, can you give me your Airbnb numbers? Tell me what's been going on. And, they maxed out at like $60,000 in revenue. In I think 2020 was their biggest year, and 1 month they did like over 8,000 in revenue, and wow. I think I've been able to hit like 55, close to 6,000. But I'm glad that I underwrote. Speaking of like how to do this and not lose your shirt, I did the best case scenario and then like the worst case scenario, and then lean more towards what would happen in that worst case scenario. And we've had good bookings like August. I already have like a booking for $3,300 and the the mortgage is $1,900. So it's not that house isn't going to go on the market anytime soon. But you have to look back and say, okay, 2020 and 2021 were complete anomalies, and there's no such thing as easy money. Unless maybe you bought in the Outer Banks in like 2019 and then rented it out during the summers of 2020 and 2021. But other than that, we had to have known that buying an investment property and everyone all of a sudden becoming landlords and hotel operators was not going to be the path to retirement.
100%. And the thing is, this is a really good example, Matt. You were really smart in that, looking back, 2021, 2022 were the peak of everything. They were the peak of prices. They were the peak or lowest of interest rates, and they were peak of rental values. We were doing rentals here. They were getting multiple contracts. We had never seen that before, like multiple contracts and people bidding up the rental price. That same thing goes to show with the short-term rentals. They were probably getting the highest value that they possibly could. So if you're going to buy a property right now on the Eastern Shore or wherever it is, make sure you go back a few years and do your numbers. Don't base it on 21 and 22. Base it on 2018, 2019 maybe, and make sure that those numbers still cover your mortgage or still make you a profit. I mean, I'm looking at Eastern Shore properties just because I feel like this is my phase and time of life that I want to do this. But I'm going to start digging into these numbers, and I'm not going to take it lightly. I'm going to go back years and make sure that I am covered so that I'm not losing my shirt.
One last thing and then we'll move on. What gets clicks on the internet is Airbnb crash. So you're going to see a lot of articles, a lot of graphs, a lot of scary Crash Bros videos out there that say Airbnb is crashing, revenues are down, and that the housing market is going to collapse when everyone puts their Airbnb back on the market. I got news for you. When people put a couple houses on the market in Joshua Tree, in Phoenix, in Destin, Florida, the housing market's not going to come back completely. That is clickbait. That is fake news. That is gotcha media. So you're going to see more properties. Sure, you're going to see more properties in Delmarva. You may see them in whatever, beach town you're looking in. But I don't think it's going to have this major impact that we expect it to have moving forward.
Yeah, and the one thing that you have to watch is interest rates. And we've seen the pop of interest rates. We've talked about it before. Affordability is down, but the values still aren't down that much. But, I got a text from one of my lenders this morning and saying that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but interest rates are trending upwards, and we're in the 7s now. And so this, again, slows down the sellers because they've got to buy somewhere. Not the second home sellers, but the move up buyers. They're just going to stay put until these interest rates come down, but the trend still is pushing upward. And when we have a good economy, which our economy is showing good signs, then interest rates, it's bad news for interest rates because we're still chugging along here and values haven't dropped. So it's going to be a tough ride for a while until we get these interest rates down. I just don't think we're going to see the inventory like we normally do.
We shall see. I think he was saying it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Worse
like
before
that.
It gets better as far as an interest rate.
We don't want to give you all doom and gloom. Who knows what'll happen. But either way, let's move on to In or Out, whether Shawn battles In or Out on 3 houses across the United States. Shawn, coming to us via Uncrate, the San Diego rotating house. San Diego's most renowned property is now on the market. Perched on Mount Helix, the rotating house takes advantage of its circular shape by spinning on its axis. It uses 1.5 horsepower to move the second floor, ensuring every room in the 4,700 square foot home has a spectacular view. Operators can adjust the speed to make rotation every 33 minutes or every 24 hours for a slower ride. Its 4-bedroom interior spans 2 levels with a kitchenette and garage on the first floor and main living areas above. The outer walls are clad in floor-to-ceiling windows to capture views of the Potomac Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. Shawn, this is $5.3 million, and it can be yours. 4 beds, 4 baths, and it is 4,700 square feet. Are you in or out on the rotating house?
Matt, I would have bought this at $8 million. This is a steal at $5 million that is. This is the coolest thing ever, in my opinion. A house that can have views from every room whenever you want it. Coolest thing I've heard of. I know that there's a hotel up here in Pentagon City that does the same thing. Very cool. I think it's a steal. I'm purchasing like Tomorrow,
Just
let's
like
do
that.
it. I think that's going to be gone. How long has it been on the market? Is it on?
Yeah, it's been on the market for about 16 days. It's got a bazillion saves on Zillow.
Surprise, man.
The Zestimate is at $5 million. Shawn, I'm in too. It's. Have you been to that rotating restaurant in Crystal City?
Yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, I have been. It's been a long time. But
Okay.
yeah.
I'm in. It's cool. It's got the cool. I think it was in Charlie's Angels. Someone said.
Wow.
I can't recall the specific scene, but I'm all in. I'm all about
So
it.
cool. The one thing that surprises me is that it's only a 1.5 horsepower engine to rotate the
That's
whole
slow.
dang house.
Oh.
Yeah, but like even the power to
Yeah.
rotate a house on a 1.5 horsepower thing, I just wouldn't think that it would do anything.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, check out that view. The views are absolutely epic. So definitely in on
so
that.
cool.
Well, let's go from one area of the country to the other, and let's head up to Ferrisburgh, Vermont, Shawn. Grosse Point in the Lake Champlain Valley is one of the most private and impressive lakefront estates in New England. From its elevated perch on the point, the grand 10,000 square foot historic stone residence with 345 acres of fields and woods overlooks more than 30 miles of Lake Champlain,
Holy
both
cow.
to the north and the south. 11 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, 9,580 square feet. And my favorite feature is it comes with its own 9-hole golf course, Shawn.
Wow.
For $26 million, are you in or out on Grosse Point?
You know, one thing I'm noticing on this is why didn't they turn on the lights when they were taking the pictures? You're selling a $26 million house and you didn't turn on the lights. Come on, man. Photographer, whoever you are, like turn these things on, right? Like
Yeah.
they could have been better.
No lights.
They could have been better. Matt, I have such mixed feelings about this. I think that, you know, on one standpoint, I love this house. I love like Lake Champlain. If you've never been there, it's beautiful. The one thing, and the golf course, I mean, what a beautiful thing, but it's very secluded. I feel like
That's why you buy it.
I know. It's like, do I need that seclusion? And not only that, it's cold up there most of the time, a lot of the time. The summers will be beautiful, but like you got maybe 60 days to enjoy that. And then you're snow covered, right? Or it's cold. I think I'm going to pass on this.
You're going to
Matt.
pass.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. I mean, it's beautiful, but I think I would probably pass.
I'm in.
Are you?
I'm in. Thanks for passing because
Yeah,
I'm
can
in.
have it.
You know, not only does it have the house, but it also has 5 guest houses, and then it has the house for the groundskeeper.
It keeps all the good stuff.
the farm
from me.
managers. Yeah, the farm manager's house. 1.5 miles of lake frontage. You know, for $26 million, you get 345 acres. You say everything's snow covered. Cool. Let's hang out in the snow. Let's walk in the snow. Let's have a cup of hot cocoa and look out over a frozen lake. You're telling me that's not a nice afternoon?
I mean, it's beautiful, but I'm more of a fisherman. I want to be out on that water enjoying it. So I'm going to stay for like an oceanfront, little warmer property. Not to say that I couldn't be convinced at some point in my life to buy it, but it's just not me right now. It's gorgeous. I'll let you buy it and I'll reap in the rewards.
I'm playing golf in January.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
what
awesome.
I'm doing.
Pretty awesome.
All right, last house. We are staying in Vermont, Vershire, Vermont. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, eclectic house for $580,000. High Haven is truly a remarkable property located in the hills of Vershire, Vermont. It was carefully constructed by a local artist and engineer husband, resulting in a whimsical and unique home. The property sits on approximately 39 acres of land, allowing for breathtaking views to the east, encompassing the White Mountains. Shawn, almost 40 acres, $580,000. Take a look at the serene surroundings and then take a glance at the interior. It's only $580,000 and you get all of this. Are you in or out?
Matt, like, all right, the house is really ugly, right? But you have 30 acres for 580 grand? Like, that seems like a steal, doesn't it?
It
It
does.
seems like a steal. I think I'm buying it for the land. It's ugly, but it's cool. It's different. So I could live with it. I think for 580, it's a great getaway. I'm buying it.
This house would drive me insane. I am so out. I couldn't
Think
be
of the
more
land,
out.
Matt. It's only $580,000.
Well,
You get 30
like you just
acres.
said, it's 30 of snow-covered acre. You get
But you
60
were just saying you were
days.
going to play golf. I mean, we could have fun up here.
Well,
for
I got no
580
golf
compared to
course.
26
I'm
million.
going to be launching balls into the 40 acres that I have.
I'm just crushing them into the 40 acres. Heck yeah, man. That'll be great.
So you got the hot tub, you got the swing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I could be down for a little Airbnb action for a weekend, but the architecture and the whimsical nature of it, it looks like a daycare center for children.
Yeah, I'd probably, again, spend a couple $1,000 on paint and tone it down a little bit. But I think it's a good investment for that 30 acres. If you want something to just get away with, or, hey, you want to live off the land in the future, 580. Granted, it's a Vermont. You're not going to grow much, but gorgeous for 580. I'm buying.
I don't quite know where Versailles, Vermont
Yeah,
is, but
I don't
doesn't
either.
sound like it's on the main.
It's probably
main
out in the
strip.
middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Well, let us know if you're in or out in the comment section below. For Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.